Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. Today we're going to do another of the nervous guides to a show. I am actually filming these in a different order to what I saw them in because I decided it would work better then, but you don't need to know that. Admin that needed to not be here. Anyway, let's talk the nervous guide to Becoming Nancy, currently playing at the Birmingham Rep. Here we go, Becoming Nancy. Let's talk about it. If you don't know what these nervous guides are, long story short, for every single video I do 2 separate videos on that show. We have this video. This video is when we talk about my experience in the show, any view or seat problems, any sensory issues, or any content warnings that need to be discussed. They will be discussed here. And then the next video is when we talk about the show itself, whether I recommend it, who I enjoyed, who I didn't like, what I enjoyed about the show, what I didn't like. We call it a review, it's not really a review. If you've been here for a while, you will know this full spiel, but I like to still put it out on every single video, just in case you're new and you've stumbled by. If so, hi. Anyway, let's get into this show. Let's talk about the seat and the theatre. So as I already said, this show is currently on at the Rep in Birmingham. I always call it the Birmingham Rep, but they call themselves the Rep, so potato potato. It is in Birmingham, unsurprisingly, and the Rep is one of my favourite theatres actually in the West Midlands. My reason is this: whenever I visit the Rep, I always feel like it's a big, massive, warm hug. It puts on some absolutely excellent shows. The staff are always really welcoming, and I know where I'm going, what I'm doing. The one thing to say about the Rep is that it is one block space. Some theatres have 2 levels, some theatres have 3 levels. Some theatres have 4 levels, depending on what theatre you are in. The Rep has 1 level, but you can access it via various doors. So I was sat in row H, so I was relatively near to the front. So we went through a bottom door, I think A, please don't quote me on that. A and I believe B are down the bottom, and then you have C and D in the middle, and then at the top is E. You could pretty much access from anywhere, but they do recommend you going in a door just so you haven't got to climb a million stairs in the auditorium. But it is something to be aware of. I feel like sight lines there are pretty decent wherever you do go, and there is one row, I can't remember off the top of my head which one it is, but there is one row which has a little bit more leg room than the rest. It's midway up. I'd love to tell you what it is, but I can't think off the top of my head. But I've never had a problem with leg room at the Rep, and the chairs are so comfy. They are quite cushioned. They always give me the vibe of a cinema seat, I suppose is the best way to describe it, but less, I don't know how to describe it. They're like nowhere else. Let's just leave it at that. But yeah, I absolutely love the Rep. View wise, seat wise, they can do no wrong. Speaking of view, as always, I will try and leave it somewhere around my head. For the record, we were sat in H, 36 and 35. I went with a friend, and even on the tickets it says which door to go through. So we went through door A, it says ground floor. Our tickets were £34.50 each, and it was a very good view. You are slightly off to the side, as you will see from wherever I put the image, but Overall, we missed nothing and they were absolutely excellent seats. Would recommend. So let's move on to the show itself. Firstly, we have running times for you. I never remember to put this in and I truly apologise. But the running time, according to a poster put up in the cloakroom area, we have Act 1 at 1 hour 5 minutes, a 20-minute interval, and then Act 2 is 1 hour. So all in all, 2 hours 5 minutes ish, give or take a little bit. The other thing I liked about this show is that it had on quite large screens wherever you went some content advice. They weren't like hiding away, they weren't telling you really quietly, or sometimes they just put a little like poster on the door as you enter, but this was literally on a roll of two other slides, if you will, on the large screens by the toilet area and in between the toilet and the bar, which gave you some content advice, which I'll get into in a minute. But I really enjoyed that aspect because for me personally, sometimes you really have to hunt out the content or sensory warnings, and it just makes me sad that that is the case. That's half the reason I started making these videos, because I just feel like it is a helpful thing to have at your disposal. Another thing to mention, and this is coming from the Rep's website, there is an age guidance of 11 plus. I would almost agree with that. The show has some very hard-hitting moments because of the period it is set in. There is language used and views raised which are quite hard to hear at times. They also have on the website some content advice, so I'm just going to read that through. So it says, Becoming Nancy is a new musical about first loves, finding your true self, and a whole lot of joy. This production contains language and acts of violence that depict homophobic and racist attitudes of 1970s Britain. Some may find this disturbing. The production also contains strong language, sexual language throughout. Please note, the production contains strong coloured lighting throughout, some flashing light sequences and strobe lighting. It's all very useful information. For me personally, I didn't find strobe lighting was a great problem, apart from one scene in Act 2 when it was set in a club in Brighton. I didn't find the lights particularly flashy, but it is always useful to have someone letting you know that is the case. For every show that I see, I tend to write down a list of things that I find could be slightly unnerving, especially for myself, and I literally have one main one for this show, and that comes in Act 1. In Act 1 there is a disco scene. They are fundraising for a charity. The charity they're fundraising for is called Rock for Racism, and one of the characters, Francis, has this song who is kind of singing her thoughts on an upbeat motion. I'm not describing this well. And towards the end of it, or pretty much to end it, a collection of people with balaclavas come onto the stage. You kind of see them before they make their entrance because they come from the back of the stage, and they storm onto the raised platform stage area, and then they jump off that stage and cause quite the commotion and pour something quite unmentionable on someone, and create quite the ruckus, and then to end that all up, a fire extinguisher is fired to the sky. So there is like a gas sound, and it's accompanied by like a shot of air, but that is the main moment that I found slightly distressing, probably not the word, slightly uncomfortable. There are other moments that I felt slightly uncomfortable, but that was down to the show itself. Long story short, for this show, the sensory side is relatively low, which is quite nice. It's nice to sit somewhere and not be on edge for a lot of it. And as I've already mentioned, the content side of it has its moments, but the way it is portrayed is, I was gonna say positive, not the best word. It is portrayed in a way that it aids the plot, and by the end everything is happy in Rainbow Land, which again, we all need that in a musical occasionally. So there we go, that is this video all done and dusted. I have a couple of other ones to film in the not too distant future. Oop. But the next video you will see is my thoughts and feelings on Becoming Nancy, so if you want to come back and see that, please do. But I'm going to leave this video here and say thank you very much for watching, and I love you all lots, and I shall see you next time. Bye.